Alrighty, I should be getting to bed. I'm just sitting here trying to eat a bit of instant mashed potato and a bit of other random crap, including this fake abalone that is a tin here. You can't even really see it. It's actually made out of tofu, and it flipping tastes good, and it's purely all the different sauces and stuff they put in it and the flavourings that make it taste so good. But wanted just to dispel a few myths about Chinese and whatnot and tell you what it's really like amongst them. Because honestly, most of the day there, I hear more Chinese than I hear English. And all these blokes have come from the mainland and stuff like that. Now, the one-child policy, I didn't quite understand how this bloke I used to work for at the vineyard, it was his brother-in-law I'm working for now, and the brother-in-law, I sort of said, "Oh, you're the wife's brother?" And he said, "No, I'm actually his younger sister's brother, and he's also got an older sister, and he's in the middle, but I'm the younger sister's husband, rather, and, I married his younger sister." And I thought, how does that work under the one-child policy? Well, the one-child policy only came in 1979. Prior to that, Mayo was trying to get everything rolling as big as possible and encourage people to have a lot of kids. And, well, yeah, now there's 1.2 billion at least. They reckon the one-child policy, this is according to Chinese government figures, is actually stopped what would have been a population of about 400,000 extra. No, I got that wrong. It's 400 million extra that they would have had without the one-child policy. But it's only been in place since 1979, and a little while ago they come not too far off having a two-child policy, but it didn't actually get through. But anyway, there are ways and means around all that, and one of the things is adoption, and there's also big fines you can pay, and the other usual way is actually to take fertility drugs and have twins or triplets, and that's one of the easiest ways to get around all that. Anyway, a couple of the myths are that they live on 2 bowls of rice a day. Ha ha. These people can eat more than I can eat. It's hard to believe it when you see it sometimes. A little bloke there today, he wouldn't have been any more than about 85 pounds in weight. He's about 40 kilos in weight. He's probably about 5 foot tall. He's a tiny little bloke. And he had this Pyrex bowl that he must have cooked up the night before or something. And he still had all the juice and all that in there. And he had bits of duck and mushrooms that he just basically boiled in water and still had the water in the bowl. But he's sitting there with a spoon scooping through all this stuff, no, it was chopsticks. What am I saying? They always eat with chopsticks. This flipping Pyrex bowl was about 10 inches wide, and you wouldn't believe it. He went through and he ate the whole bloody lot. I couldn't believe it. They've always got heaps of food, and they always share their food amongst each other too. And one of the older blokes there will end up handing a whole heap of stuff to someone else. And I remember one bloke left his lunch behind one day. A few days, he sort of makes a habit of it, I think. And, every time, bang, they give him a bit of stuff to eat. And every day it's something different, but the funniest one is what I've seen, the little bloke I was saying about, who's probably only 40 kilos, tiny little bloke. Some of you over here, I don't know if you've got it in the States, but there's what they call Milo flakes. It's almost like cornflakes, but instead you've got these, like these puffed rice things or something like that are flavoured, chocolate flavoured, and they call it Milo flakes. Well, he'll have a bowl of that with milk, but instead of it with chopsticks, he gets paddle sticks out of like your, Aussie pole sticks, and eats them with that. So yeah, they do eat a large amount of food. They run the pants off me when it comes to eating. Now the other thing is that I've seen stuff on TV so that they can lift 55 kilos each and stuff like this. and they're terribly strong even though they're a small stature, blah blah blah. Not really. They don't really have strength, anything like I expected. I was working with that little bloke, and we were lifting a few things that are a bit heavy, and he said, "Oh, I've got to stop and have a rest." And I said, "Oh, I thought you Chinese could just go and go and go." I said I could do another 2 flipping straight away, and I'm barely, only just starting to break a sweat. Let's just do another 2 right now. "Oh, no, I'm actually worn out." And he's sitting there puffing and panting and all that. And quite often, you'd be surprised that they don't sort of have the muscles that you would expect or that you've heard of, and they sort of, when I worked at the vineyard, we packed a shipping container a couple of times there with the Chinese boss, and these boxes of wine, they're about 12 kilos each. I think that works out about 26 pounds or something like that. He could not lift them above his chest. I mean, I could have thrown these things like a blooming soccer ball. He could not even get it up to head height when he's stacking it in. He had to flipping hand it to us. He tried, he just couldn't do it. And his son was even worse. His son was battling to even get it up to chest height. I was sitting there going, I can't believe this. I thought these people were supposed to go flat out and all this sort of stuff. And no, they just don't seem to have the strength and all that. And a lot of the other blokes have got this saying, hang on, we'll bring in a bit of Aussie muscle. Here, now you're right, you've got a bit of Aussie muscle, they keep saying to the foreman, because they realise that they're quite a bit stronger. But there's one bloke who is very strong, and he could probably lift 40 kilos in each hand, because he is seriously strong. But I mean, he's stronger than most of us. But I mean, the Chinese, like, she gets up around the 20 kilo mark, oh, you'll be puffing, panting. Now, the other one which you guys might be quite surprised about is this thing that they're all little tiny people. That is just complete bullshit. There's ones that are bigger than me. There's one bloke there, one of the older blokes. He's probably, I don't know, early 50s, I'd say. Yeah, early 50s. He would be about 6'6". I'm not shitting. And he's got the build to go with it. He's not, like a skinny bloke. He's muscle, he's flipping, he's got the big broad shoulders and the whole lot. With Vietnamese, you see a lot of ones who are very small, or if they've got a little bit of height, they're very lanky. And I mean, the Chinese boss of the vineyard was, but even his brother-in-law's got a bit more sort of muscle to him. And there's, a couple of the other Chinese there, particularly the bloke in his 50s, they're flipping big. Some of them are flipping big. And, he'd tower over me, and it's quite surprising because all these ideals of, these stereotypes you get, a lot of them are crap. And they sort of, they are the sort of people that you'll see get up into things and that with, like they have flipping screws in their mouth and this and that and be holding about flaming 10 things at once. But the other thing is sometimes they'll sort of, something will drop off or run amok because they're, trying to do too many things at once. And it's sort of hard to explain. It's like, how Chinese products are flimsy and all that. Well, you see them do stuff that looks like it's sort of flimsy and it's going to fall to bits, or the bit of wire's just hanging on, or the stuff's just holding there, and then they sort of just give it a flick with their hand and it all falls into place. And it sort of looks like it's going to turn into a shitstorm. And then they sort of just give it a quick flick and then it all just bang, just all, works pretty well sort of thing. And they always have a tendency of getting something that you think, oh no, we've stuffed it, oh, we've lost it, the hooks for the suspended ceiling aren't going to make it, or this or that. And they just give it a little flip and tap or a little wiggle and boom, it all just sort of clicks into place. I will say that some of the plastering jobs that I have seen, the first wall ones, they can be a little bit rough on it, but I mean the first wall ones, this is when we do the double layer walls, no one really gives a shit about them because you got to worry about the second layer looking good because no one's ever going to see the first layer. But there are times where they do things a little bit rough and stuff like that. But it's funny when sometimes you think something's going to just turn into a shitstorm, and just get a little nudge with their foot, or a little flick with the hand, and then boom, it all just clicks into place, and you thought it was all going to be, look like a dog's dinner, and yet they just sort of, it looks like it's going that way, and then they just give it a nudge or just a little wiggle or a little tap with their blooming, their boot or their drill or the end of the tape measure or something, and it all just clicks into place. It's sort of funny, but especially if they've got something you think, oh no, it's all going to collapse or fall down, or because they've been stacking something rough, and then they just give it a little tap and it all just boom, just seep without a problem, and you just think, God blimey, it's just the knack they've got. It's hard to explain until you see them do it, but yeah, that's a couple of myths and that about the Chinese. Another one you might notice is they're no good at understanding sarcasm. And some of them, another one I worked with at the nursery years ago, he used to get really fired up sort of thing with any sarcasm and all that. He really take offence to it. But what it works out is, and this is what I've been told, is sarcasm doesn't work when you translate it into Chinese. It just doesn't make sense because of all the way the words are sort of, and the sentences are structured. The sentences are structured automatically as though respect is part of the way the language is structured with the sentences, which sounds bizarre. But if you were to say something sarcastic in English and translate it back into Chinese, it doesn't really quite make sense, and it actually doesn't translate properly, which is why they sort of don't get sarcasm in China, and then they don't quite understand the idea of sarcasm when they're in English-speaking countries and they take offence, sort of thing. Yeah, it's a funny one. People have got varying opinions on that on some of the YouTube comments, but I have sort of seen it with one of the blokes I worked at in the nursery who didn't understand it and would get highly offended at any sarcasm, and he was mainland Chinese as well. But yeah, there's a few little myths and stuff burst, and a few stereotypes with it.